There's a huge economic shift happening in Brazil right now, and it's flying almost completely under the radar. It's the story of a new global power betting big on a region that, well, was pretty much overlooked until now. We're talking about China's major new focus on the Brazilian Northeast.
For decades, if you thought about foreign investment in Brazil, your mind probably went straight to one place, right? The industrial heartland, the economic engine of the country. But that old pattern is being completely redrawn, and it's happening fast.
So the old story was pretty straightforward. American and European money poured into that bustling Rio-Sao Paulo area. But the new story? That's all about China, and they're looking somewhere totally different, the Northeast. So the big question is, why? Why this pivot away from the traditional economic center?
To give you a sense of the scale of this pivot, just look at this number. We're talking about more than 90 billion reais. That's over 17 billion US dollars in committed investments from over 50 different Chinese projects there since 2016. I mean, this is no small experiment. It's a massive, calculated move.
Now, historically, yeah, the Southeast has more Chinese projects overall. But here's the kicker. If you focus on just the last 5 years, the whole trend flips. The Northeast actually pulls ahead, becoming the #1 destination for new Chinese capital flowing into Brazil.
Okay, so to really get a handle on why this is all happening now, we've got to rewind a bit and see how this powerful economic relationship between China and Brazil was built in the first place. It didn't just pop up overnight.
It really starts back in the 1980s when China started opening its economy. A huge moment was in 2001 when China joined the World Trade Organization and began this global hunt for resources to fuel its incredible growth. And Brazil? Well, it was a natural partner. By 2009, China had already surpassed the U.S. as Brazil's biggest trading partner, and it stayed that way ever since. Today, we're talking about trade worth over $150 billion a year.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The partnership evolved. It went from China just buying Brazilian soybeans and iron ore to Chinese companies directly financing and building the ports, the power lines, and the factories inside Brazil.
And that brings us right back to our central question. With this deep, sophisticated partnership already in place, why is the Northeast suddenly the perfect spot for China's next big move? What does this region have that the rest of Brazil doesn't?
Well, when you put them side by side, it's like a different world. The traditional Southeast has high costs and tons of competition. It's saturated. The Northeast, on the other hand, offers lower costs and a wide-open playing field. And crucially, its energy is green and abundant, and its ports face wide out to the Atlantic.
Let's break down that perfect pitch. First, you've got a cheaper labor force. Then, there's this massive, largely untapped potential for solar and wind power. Add to that, a strategic coastline that's basically a straight shot across the Atlantic. And to top it all off, you have local governments that are eager for investment and willing to offer big tax breaks to get it.
One analyst had this perfect analogy for it. For Chinese companies that are dealing with rising costs back home, producing in the Northeast is like producing in China of 20 years ago. It's just a golden opportunity to get lower production costs with direct access to the huge Latin American market.
All right, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the what. What's the actual blueprint of projects that are transforming this region on the ground?
Okay, first up, energy. And this is a big one. The state-owned company State Grid is dropping 18 billion reals on a massive transmission line to move all that renewable energy out of the Northeast. At the same time, China General Nuclear, or CGN, is building these huge solar farms. The goal is pretty clear. Build a green energy backbone to power everything else they're planning.
Next up, you've got mobility and infrastructure. The electric vehicle giant BYD is investing 3 billion reais in a factory for EVs and batteries in Bahia. And in that same state, a Chinese consortium is building the Salvador-Itaparica Bridge, which is going to be the longest in all of Latin America. They are literally building the physical future of the region. And finally, there's the high-tech piece of the puzzle. ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, has announced this colossal 50 billion real investment in a data center powered by that renewable energy. And at the same time, Huawei and ZTE are expanding fiber optic networks all over the place. The ambition here is nothing less than turning the Northeast into a digital hub for all of Latin America.
So when you step back and you look at all these pieces on the board, the energy, the transport, the tech, you start to realize this is way bigger than just a few business deals. We have to zoom out and see it for what it is, a global chess match.
See, this strategy is about more than just Brazil. It's about China, building up friendly markets in the global south. That's a term for developing nations, where Western money has often been hard to come by.
It creates this whole sphere of economic partnership that acts as a counterbalance to traditional US and European influence. And the playbook they're using seems pretty straightforward when you break it down. Step 1. Finance the essential infrastructure that others won't. Step 2. By doing that, you secure long-term access to the energy and resources you need. And Step 3. You build lasting political influence and, a degree of technological dependence through these partnerships.
So for Beijing, a huge project like that massive power line in Brazil doesn't need to make a profit next quarter. The return is strategic. It gives a key partner energy stability, and it deepens the economic and tech ties between the two countries for the long haul.
So what does this all add up to? What are we really witnessing here? Well, it looks like the creation of something entirely new, and it has some profound implications for the future of the whole region and for global trade itself.
What's really emerging is what you could call a new Atlantic hub. China is betting that this unique combo, clean energy, cheaper production, and direct port access to the Atlantic, makes the Northeast the perfect launching pad, not just to strengthen its presence in Brazil, but to consolidate it across the entire South Atlantic.
And that leaves us with the final critical question. With billions of dollars pouring into energy, infrastructure, and technology, are we watching Brazil's Northeast transform, right before our eyes, into China's main strategic hub in the South Atlantic? It sure looks like all the pieces are being put in place.